Pierre sending a message to Mr. Carney and all of his ministers that we are going to be watching you and watching you extremely closely.
We just got back from Ottawa, where we had the honour of attending the swearing-in ceremonies for Dan Muse, Member of Parliament for Flamborough, Glanbrook, Brant North, and Ned Curick, Member of Parliament for the Hamilton East Stony Creek riding. Now, this is a ceremony you won't see on the news, and very few Canadians get to witness it in person, but we're happy to give you an inside glimpse into how an MP-elect officially becomes a Member of Parliament. Lastly, Pierre Poilievre has named his new shadow cabinet, which now outnumbers Carney's actual cabinet almost 2-1.
Let's take a look. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is the table. This is the book that you see laying there that MP elects must sit in front of, must sign, and swear their oath in front of in order to actually become a Member of Parliament. Now, you'll see just to the left of the roll, which is the big book that is lying open, is a black book. That is the Holy Bible, and that is to be placed there for every Member of Parliament that is actually sworn in. This is the room that the ceremony actually was taking place in, and this is interesting because we were informed that this is the, well, now old Conservative caucus room. Now, what's the Conservative caucus room? The Conservative caucus room is essentially the meeting place for every Conservative Member of Parliament. So they usually meet every Wednesday and discuss what's going on, strategies, concerns. People within the caucus are allowed to come up and talk, speak in front of the microphone. And the saying goes, what happens in caucus stays in caucus. So you're not supposed to divulge anything that actually is spoken about.
So where is this room exactly? So it is in the basement of West Block. It is on the same level as the Welcome Centre. So if you've ever gone on a tour of Parliament since the Centre Block has been closed, you go into this area and then down an escalator, and that's the Welcome Centre on the basement level. This is the level that this room is on, and it is just near the House of Commons. Instead of turning, I think it's to the right to go into the House, and then up the escalator, you go straight.
Now, the interesting thing is, as a result of this last election, they can't meet in this room anymore. Why? Because it's too small.
Right. So this is no longer the Conservative caucus room because the Conservative caucus is now too big for this room.
So we're not sure where the new caucus room is going to be, but I'm sure that's going to be sorted out very, very soon, because the first meeting for caucus, I imagine, is going to be either next week or the week after. So, before we actually show you the ceremony, we want to show you what Canadians typically do see as a result of an MP being elected into Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, it is an honor to present to you Don Stewart, the member for the electoral district of Toronto-St. Paul's. He has taken the oath, signed the roll, and now claims the right to take his seat.
Let the honourable member take his seat.
So this was after Don Stewart was elected as an MP after the by-election of Toronto St. Paul's. And as you can see, the leader and deputy leader brought him into the House of Commons and announced that he has sworn the oath and signed the roll.
And you'll notice that he did that in front of the mace that is a symbol of the king and the governor general. And then he is asked by the speaker to take a seat. So what does swearing the oath and what does signing the roll actually mean? Let's take a look.
Presiding over the swearing-in ceremony for this afternoon. So before members are allowed to take their seat in the House of Commons, they must all take the oath of allegiance, which is prescribed in section 128 of the Constitution. So it's a constitutional requirement for them to swear this oath before they're about to take their seat. They must also sign the test roll, which is an official document that we have here on the table. When members swear the oath of allegiance to the sovereign, so that the way the oath is, oath of allegiance to King Charles, they're also swearing allegiance to the institutions and the values that the sovereign represents. That includes the concept of democracy and the rule of law. So members are making a pledge that they're going to act with the best interests of the country and best interests of our institutions at heart during their time. So this oath of affirmation reminds members of the serious obligations and responsibilities that they are assuming. That, move over to the table and we will go through the ceremony.
I, Dan Mew, do swear
I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to His Majesty King Charles
to His Majesty King Charles III. Here.
And there it is. There's the oath of office.
So what happens after that? Well, the Member of Parliament sits down and signs the roll. This enters their name into the session of Parliament and registers them as an authorized member with all of the rights and privileges that comes with it. So this is Dan Mew's happily signing the roll, and he is also posing for pictures at this time as well. Now, we also had the privilege, as we mentioned, to attend the swearing-in ceremony of Ned Curick. This is his first time going through this. It was Dan's second time, so this is a very, very special occasion for Ned Curick and his family. Now, this was something very unique that occurred during Ned's ceremony. So this is Ned and his lovely wife, and they were presented with Member of Parliament pins. Now, Dan had already received his when he was sworn in the first time he won back in 2021, but since this is Ned's first time, he received his parliamentary pin, but the spouse also receives a somewhat different parliamentary pin. And why do they receive this? They receive this because the public service actually does recognize the fact that this is a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice by the Member of Parliament that they are spending time away from their loved ones, and it's a symbol of that commitment and honoring of the spouse that they are, as Anna likes to say, giving their other half, giving their spouse to the country in service of Canada. So it's to recognize that sacrifice between both the Member of Parliament and their spouse. So we just want to issue our heartfelt congratulations to Dan Mewes, Ned Curick, and all of the Conservative, and let's be fair here, all of the members of Parliament across the country who won their election, whether they're Liberal, NDP, Bloc, or whomever. They all deserve congratulations at this point. Now, let's get down to business, because business is about to ramp up really fast in Ottawa. So, after Mr. Carney named his cabinet, he wants to say that it's a smaller cabinet with 21 ministers. Never mind the fact that he named a bunch of secretaries of state, which were effectively junior ministers. So he wants to try and say he has a much smaller cabinet, but his cabinet is basically the exact same size as Justin Trudeau's. It's around 39 people, including Carney himself. So as a response to that, Pierre Poilievre has named his shadow cabinet. Now, the good news is that the dream team that was in place in the last parliament is largely intact. So you still have people like Melissa Lantsman as deputy leader. You have Andrew Scheer now as House leader and taking over temporarily for Pierre in the House. You still have Larry Brock as the Shadow Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. You still have the likes of Michael Barrett, Michael Cooper, Garnet Jennis, Stephanie Kuzy, Kelly Block, and all the rest of the parliamentarians there that are Conservatives that have really done a phenomenal job at holding the Liberal government to account. But Pierre did announce that he has essentially outnumbered the Liberal cabinet with his shadow cabinet in naming 48 critics to this Liberal government. So what does that mean? That means that Pierre is sending a message to Mr. Carney and all of his ministers that we are going to be watching you and watching you extremely closely.
2-on-1 almost.
2-on-1.
Like for every one of your ministers, we're going to have 2 shadow cabinet ministers watching.
Right.
And the nice thing about the shadow cabinet is there's no pay increase. So Pierre essentially could name as many as he wants. So it's not costing taxpayers anything to have all these extra shadow cabinet members.
Right. So but that message that it sends, I think, is a really good one. And we're going to be following it very, very closely so that you as Canadians get to see everything that is going on in government. We're going to be covering almost every bill that the government puts forward, unless it's a kind of a housekeeping one and one that is very irrelevant. But we're going to be covering budget. We're going to be covering tax decreases.
Budget if we ever get one.
Yeah, maybe. Potential tax increases. We're going to be watching like a hawk for any potential censorship bills that come in. And we're going to be keeping you informed and dissecting each and every one so you know exactly what it means. So a lot of you have said to us that you can't wait to get back to committee. That's what we like to hear. We honestly can't wait to get back to committee and see what comes out. And we're interested to see if anything is still going to happen with the SCTC documents from the RCMP, what's going to happen with Stephen Anderson, who was slated to be summoned to the bar of the House after Michael Barrett was going to raise it as a question of privilege if the SCTC question of privilege in the last parliament somehow disappeared.
Well, and just as a funny aside, we were on the floor of the House yesterday, and when we walked in, there was the bar right there. And I think you had made the comment that wouldn't it be great to see Stephen Anderson standing here?
Right. And I was saying to our son, not that he fully grasped what I was saying, he said, Christian Firth was standing right there. So
And we told him if he misbehaved, that's where he would have to stand.
That's right. So,
of course, we were joking, but
anyway, folks, we are going to be covering the opening of Parliament. We're going to be live streaming the throne speech next Tuesday when King Charles delivers that from the Senate, and we're going to be covering Parliament as soon as it resumes. So buckle up, everybody, because season 2 is almost here.